Hey guys, so today we're going to look at the Unit 7, Day 3 worksheet, and we're going to flip over to the back, and we can look at number 5 together. So number 5 tells us that the local park needs to replace an existing fence that is 6 feet high. Fence Company A charges $7,000 for building materials and $200 per foot for the length of the fence. Fence Company B charges based on the length of the fence. That is, the total cost of a 6-foot-high fence will depend on how long the fence is. The table below represents the inputs and corresponding outputs that the function assigns for Fence Company B. So we can just label this table as Company B to remind ourselves that this is the table for Company B. So part A asks us which company charges a higher rate per foot of fencing, and how do you know? So this one's asking us to compare the rates of Company A and Company B. So to be able to do that, we should first figure out the rate of Company A, which we can do from looking back at the word problem. So it tells us that Company A charges $7,000 for building materials and $200 per foot for the length of the fence. That per automatically tells us that Company A has a rate of $200 because per accounts for the slope, and so does the rate. So rate, slope, and per all mean the same idea. So we know Company A's rate is $200 per foot, which is our M. Now we have to figure out Company B's rate. To figure that out, we can use the idea of direct variation, where we can find the y over the x value to find the rate. So in this case, we can take that first set of input and output, so 100, 2,600, and do 2,600 divided by 100. When we do that in the calculator, we get $260 per foot, which is our M. So now we have to answer the other part of this question. Which company charges a higher rate per foot? So if Company A charges $200 per foot and Company B charges $260 per foot, we know Company B does, because its rate is higher. So that answers the how do you know part. So looking at part B, it asks at what number of the length of the fence would the company or would the cost from each fence company be the same? What will the cost be when the companies charge the same amount? So in order to do this, we're going to have to make two equations for each of the companies. So we're going to have an equation for Company A and one for Company B. And both these equations will be in y equals mx plus b. So we have to find our m and we have to find our b. Well, we already know our m and our m for Company A and our m for Company B. So our m for Company A from part A was 200. So we have y equals 200x. Our m from Company B was 260. So Company B's equation, we have y equals 260x. So now we have to figure out our b's. So for Company A, it tells us that Fence Company A charges $7,000 for building material. So we can know that that's going to be our B, because they're charging $7,000 for the materials, and then they're charging $200 per foot for the length of the fence. But Company B only charges based on the length of the fence, so you don't have to pay for any building materials like we do for Company A. So that makes our B, or our y-intercept for Company B, 0. So we don't even have to write that. So now since it's asking at what number of the length of the fence would the cost from each fence company be the same. All we have to do is set these two equations equal to each other. Because our two equations represent the cost of the fence, so we could just set these two equal to each other. So then we have to solve for x, so we can subtract 200x from both sides. And when we do that, we get 60x equals 7,000. And then we divide both sides by 60, and we get x equals 116.67 feet. And we know our x is feet because on our table, x's were the length of the fence and y's were the cost. So now it also tells us to find the cost. So now that we have our x, we can find our y. So to do that, we can plug our x into either of the two equations, but company B's equation would be easier to plug into. So our x is 116.67, so we'll plug that in. So we have to do 260 times 116.67, and we get $30334. So I'm rounding here. So our answers are 116.67 feet and $30,334. Part C asks us, if the fence you need is 190 feet in length, which company would be a better choice? So it gives us 190 feet, and we know from our table that feet is an x value, so we can write x equals 190. If we want to tell which company is the better choice, we have to plug 190 into both of our company's equations. So for company A, our equation was y equals 200x plus 7,000. So we would plug 190 in for x, so we get y equals 200 times 190 plus 7,000. And when we do that on our calculator, we get y equals 45,000. So now that we plugged x equals 190 into company A's equation, we have to do the same for company B. So company B's equation is y equals 260x. So when we plug x of 190 in, we have y equals 260 times 190. And in our calculators, we get $49,400. So it's asking us, if the fence you need is 190 feet in length, which company would be a better choice? So if we're buying a fence, we would want to pick the company that has the cheaper fence. So 45,000 is cheaper than 49,400. So that would tell us that company A is the better choice because their fence would be cheaper.